You know, there's something that happens when you turn 60 that nobody quite prepares you for. It's not what you'd expect, not the things people warn you about, or the milestones they mention at birthday parties. It's quieter than that, more personal. It's the way you notice time moving differently, the way a Tuesday afternoon feels somehow both shorter and longer than it used to. The way you find yourself standing in your kitchen mid-morning and realizing you've been thinking about something that happened 30 years ago, and it feels like yesterday. I want to talk about that today, about what life after 60 really feels like. Not the version we see in advertisements or hear about at family gatherings, but the actual lived experience of it. The things we notice but don't always say out loud. If you've been wondering whether what you're feeling is normal, whether other people notice the same quiet shifts, then maybe this conversation is for you. Let's just sit with this for a while. The changes start small. You might not even notice them at first. They arrive gradually, like the way afternoon light moves across your living room floor. Mornings feel different. You wake earlier, often without meaning to. The alarm clock becomes less necessary. Your body has its own schedule now. Some mornings you're up before dawn, making coffee in the blue half-light, listening to the house settle around you. And you don't rush anymore. Not the way you used to. You drink your coffee slowly. You look out the window. You notice the birds at the feeder, the way the neighbor's cat sits on the fence post at exactly the same time each day. Time has changed texture. It used to stretch out ahead of you, this long road with so much distance to cover. Now it feels more circular, more like you're moving through seasons you've seen before, but seeing them differently this time. Your priorities shift without you quite deciding to shift them. Things that seemed urgent 10 years ago don't have the same grip anymore. The promotion, the bigger house, the impressive vacation. They've moved to a different place in your mind, made room for other things. You find yourself caring more about the small moments, a conversation with your daughter that goes on longer than expected, the way your grandson's hand feels in yours, the taste of really good bread, the satisfaction of finishing a book you've been reading for weeks. You start noticing what you actually enjoy, not what you're supposed to enjoy, but what makes you feel present, alive, content. Maybe it's working in the garden. Maybe it's the crossword puzzle. Maybe it's that one friend who makes you laugh. Maybe it's just sitting in your favorite chair, watching the light change. And your body has its own story to tell. It's slower. You can't deny it. Stairs take more thought. Your knees make sounds they didn't used to make. But here's what's strange. You also become more grateful for what your body can still do. The feeling of walking, the taste of food, the warmth of sun on your face. Your body becomes less of a tool you use and more of a companion you're traveling with. The world feels both larger and smaller. Larger because you have time to notice more. Smaller because your daily world becomes more defined. The places you go regularly, the people you see, the routines that shape your days. Your life becomes more concentrated, more distilled, like you're living in the essence of things rather than the busy surface of. There are things about being over 60 that people feel but don't often say. Not because they're ashamed, but because they're hard to put into words. So let me say some of them out loud. You can feel invisible sometimes. Not all the time. But there are moments when you're aware that people look past you. The young waiter who makes eye contact with everyone at the table except you. The way conversations at parties seem to flow around you rather than toward you. It's subtle, but it's there. But here's the other side of that. Sometimes invisibility feels like freedom. There's less pressure to perform, less need to impress. You can just be yourself, your actual self, not the version you thought you needed to be. If something bores you, you don't have to pretend it doesn't. If you're tired, you can say so. If you want to leave the party early, you can. This is a kind of freedom you couldn't have imagined at 30. There's also the truth about loss. By the time you're in your 60s, you've lost people, friends, colleagues, family members. The losses accumulate, and they change how you see the world. They make everything feel more precious and more fragile at the same time. You think about mortality more, not in a morbid way, but it's there, like background music. You know there's less road ahead than there is behind. And strangely, this awareness can make things more vivid. Colors seem brighter. Laughter feels more valuable. A beautiful day matters more. Let me tell you about Robert. He's 68, lives in Calgary. He told me something I haven't forgotten. He said, "I used to think about death and feel afraid. Now I think about it and feel motivated, like I better not waste today." He paused, looked out his kitchen window at the mountains. "So I don't," he said. "I try not to waste it." You also carry certain regrets. Not necessarily big ones, but small regrets, quiet ones. The trip you didn't take. The person you didn't stay in touch with. The words you didn't say when you had the chance. These regrets don't define you, but they're part of the texture of being this age. And alongside them is a growing sense of acceptance, an understanding that you did the best you could with what you knew at the time. There's also something else nobody mentions. You can feel lonely even when you're not alone, even when you're married, even when you have children and grandchildren. There's a kind of existential aloneness that comes with this age. This isn't depression. It's just a recognition that we're all, in some fundamental way, on our own journey. But you also find moments of deep connection that weren't available when you were younger. When someone really sees you. When a conversation goes to a place that matters. When you lock eyes with someone else your age, and you both just know. Those moments become more precious than 100 superficial interactions. And there's a quiet strength that comes with having lived this long. You've survived things you didn't think you could survive. You've gotten through periods you thought would never end. All of that is in you now, part of who you are. You may not feel strong. You may feel tired sometimes, but you are strong. The evidence is that you're still here. Let me tell you about someone I know, not someone famous, just a person living an ordinary life, the kind of life many of us are living. Her name is Margaret. She's 71, lives in a small house in a neighborhood where she's been for 38 years. Same house, same street. The maple tree in her front yard was barely taller than her when she and her husband first moved in. Now it towers over the roof. Her husband died 4 years ago. Heart attack. Sudden. No warning. The house feels different without him. Bigger, somehow. Emptier. Though it's the same house, same rooms, same furniture. She hasn't changed much. His reading chair is still in the corner by the window. She can't quite bring herself to move it. Most mornings she makes 1 cup of coffee instead of 2. She still sets the table for 1, even though she could just eat standing at the counter. She still uses the good plates sometimes, the ones they saved for company. Why not? What's she saving them for? On Tuesdays, she goes to the library. She's been doing this for years. She knows the librarians by name. They know her. They save books for her, things they think she might like. She always thanks them, even though sometimes she doesn't finish the books they recommend. She walks slowly through the stacks, not because she has to, but because she likes to. Because there's something peaceful about being surrounded by all those stories, all those lives lived on pages. On Wednesday afternoons, her daughter calls. They talk for 30, maybe 40 minutes, sometimes longer. They talk about the grandchildren. Margaret has 3. They talk about the weather, about what Margaret's been reading, about plans for Sunday dinner. Margaret looks forward to these calls. She doesn't say this to her daughter, but she does. They're a kind of anchor in her week. Thursdays, she has tea with a friend, Joan. They've known each other since their children were in elementary school together. That was over 40 years ago now. Hard to believe. They don't talk about anything profound. They talk about the news, about Joan's arthritis, about the new family that moved in down the street. They complain about the cost of groceries. They laugh about getting older. Sometimes they sit in comfortable silence, just drinking their tea. Margaret cherishes these afternoons more than she can express. On Saturdays, she works in her garden. Her knees hurt when she kneels, so she's gotten a little cushioned stool to sit on. She weeds slowly, talks to her tomato plants, watches the bees move among the flowers. She thinks a lot while she gardens. About her husband, about her children when they were small, about her own mother who loved gardens too, about how strange it is to be this age, to have lived all these years. Sometimes sadness rises up in her, just rises up out of nowhere. She'll be deadheading roses and suddenly she's crying. Not sobbing, just tears running down her face. She lets herself cry, doesn't fight it. Then she wipes her eyes and keeps working. Sundays, the family comes for dinner. Her son, her daughter, their spouses, the grandchildren. The house fills with noise and movement and life. Margaret cooks too much food. She always does. She can't help it. She watches her grandchildren play in the backyard, in the same yard where her own children played. The continuity of it moves her. The way life keeps going. The way her children are now the parents and she's the grandmother. When did that happen? After everyone leaves, the house feels especially quiet. But it's not a bad quiet. It's a satisfied quiet. A quiet that says the day was full, that love was present, that she did what she wanted to do. Margaret is not unhappy. She wants people to know that. She's not unhappy. She's lonely sometimes. She misses her husband. She wishes her body worked better. She worries about money occasionally, though she's fine, really. She worries about being a burden someday, though her children tell her not to think that way. But she's also okay. More than okay, some days. She has her routines, her people, her small pleasures, her garden, her books, her memories. This is her life now, not the life she imagined when she was 30. Not the golden years they show in advertisements, just her actual life. And most days, that's enough. More than enough, really. There are understandings that come with age. Not lessons, exactly. Just things that gradually become clear. One understanding is this. Most things don't matter as much as you thought they did. The argument you had with your neighbor about where the property line was. The promotion you didn't get. The embarrassing thing you said at that party. All of it fades. All of it becomes less important in the rearview mirror. Another understanding, relationships are everything. When you look back at your life, the moments that matter are almost all moments with other people. Conversations, shared meals, laughter. The things you owned, the achievements you earned, these things have their place. But they're not what you think about when you're lying in bed at night remembering. You think about people, faces, voices, moments of connection. You realized that you should have worried less. All that worrying you did, most of it was wasted energy. The things you worried about either didn't happen, or they happened and you dealt with them. And the things that did go wrong were often things you never saw coming. You understand that there's no perfect way to live. You spent so much time trying to get things right, trying to make the right decisions, be the right kind of person. Now you see that everyone's just doing their best. Everyone's figuring it out as they go. Some people seem to have it all together, but they don't. Not really. They're just better at hiding their doubts. If you're feeling some of these same things, this sense that life looks different now than you expected, you're not alone in that. Leave a comment if you'd like. Sometimes it helps just to say it out loud. You realize that happiness isn't a destination. It's not something you arrive at after you've achieved certain things. It's not waiting for you at retirement or when the children are settled. Happiness happens in small moments. It's scattered throughout your days. It comes and goes, and that's okay. You can be happy and sad in the same week, in the same day, sometimes in the same hour. You learn that regret and gratitude can coexist. You can wish you'd done some things differently while also being grateful for how things turned out. Life is not either /or. It's both /and. You understand your parents better now. If they're still alive, you see them differently. If they're gone, you think about them with more compassion. You understand why they did some of the things they did. Because now you're older than they were during some of your clearest memories of them. And you understand how hard it is to navigate life without a map. You realize that you're still yourself. Despite everything that's changed, you're still fundamentally you. The same person who had dreams at 20, who fell in love, who raised children, who built a life. That continuity is strange to recognize. You thought you'd feel more grown up by now, more certain. But inside, you're still you. Still that person who wonders, who hopes, who doubts, who dreams. And finally, you understand that time is the most precious thing you have. Not money, not possessions. Time. Time with people you love. Time to do things that matter to you. Time to be present. You can't save it. You can only spend it. And how you spend it is the only thing that really determines the quality of your life. The pace is different now. You move through your days at a speed that would have frustrated you 20 years ago. But you're not frustrated anymore. You're learning to move at the speed of your own life. Some mornings you sit with your coffee for half an hour, not doing anything, just sitting. This used to feel like wasting time. Now it feels necessary. The gathering of yourself before the day begins. You notice things you never noticed before. The pattern light makes on the wall, the sound of rain on the roof, the way your cat sits in the morning sun. Small things, unremarkable things, but somehow they matter now. You realize that noticing is its own kind of living. You talk slower sometimes, not because you can't find words, but because you're choosing them more carefully, because you've learned that words matter. So you pause before speaking. You think before you answer. This slowing down changes your relationships. Conversations go deeper because you're not rushing through them. You actually listen instead of just waiting for your turn to talk. You ask better questions, not small talk questions, but questions that invite people to share something real. And people respond. They open up, because they sense that you have time. Mary, 67, from Vancouver, told me something beautiful. She said, "I used to fill every silence. Now I let them sit there. And you know what? That's when people tell me the truth." She smiled. The real truth, not the polite version. Your days have a rhythm now. A predictable rhythm that used to bore you. But now you find comfort in it. The same breakfast, the same walk, the same evening routine. This isn't monotony. It's stability. It's knowing what comes next. You understand that rest is not laziness. Rest is necessary. Rest allows you to continue. You nap sometimes, without guilt. You sit on the porch. You watch birds. You do nothing in particular, and this nothing refills something in you. You've let go of some things, activities you used to do, commitments you used to keep, not because you're giving up, but because you're choosing. You only have so much energy now. You've learned to spend it on what actually nourishes you. The people who matter understand. You've made peace with certain things, with your body, with your limitations, with your past, with your choices. Peace doesn't mean you're thrilled about everything. It means you've stopped fighting what is. You've stopped wishing you were someone else, somewhere else, some other age. This is your life. This is your body. This is your moment. And it's enough. You've discovered that slowness has its own beauty, that there's richness in the ordinary, that there's meaning in the mundane. You don't need extraordinary experiences to feel alive. You just need to be present for the ordinary ones. The morning light, the taste of tea, the sound of someone's voice on the phone, the feeling of clean sheets. These things are not small. They're everything. They're your life, moment by moment. So here we are. We've talked about what life after 60 feels like. Not the surface version, but the actual lived version. The small changes, the unspoken truths, the quiet realizations, the slowing down, all of it. And maybe some of this resonated with you. Maybe you found yourself thinking, yes, that's exactly it. That's what I've been feeling, but couldn't quite name. If so, then you're not alone. There are millions of people going through this same passage, noticing the same things, feeling the same mixture of loss and gain, sadness and peace, fear and freedom. We're all figuring it out together, quietly, separately, but together. And there's something comforting about that. I want to thank you for spending this time here, for listening, for being willing to sit with some things that aren't always easy to sit with. That willingness says something about you. It says you're still engaged with your life, still curious, still growing, still willing to look at yourself honestly. Remember that your life has value exactly as it is. Not when you're more active, not when you're less lonely, not when things are different, but now, today. Your presence matters. Your quiet days matter just as much as anyone's dramatic ones. The way you've learned to live with loss. The way you've adapted to change. The way you've found meaning in small things. The way you keep going even when it's hard. All of that is strength. All of that is life being lived well. You might not feel like you're doing anything special. You might feel like you're just getting through your days, making your coffee, going through your routines, doing your best. But that is something special. That is life, real life, and it deserves to be honored. So I'll leave you with this. However many years you have ahead of you, they're yours. You get to spend them however you choose. You get to slow down. You get to rest. You get to say no. You get to let go of things that don't serve you anymore. You also get to try new things, to learn, to change your mind, to surprise yourself, to be more yourself than you've ever been. Because that's the gift of this age, the freedom to finally, truly be who you are, without apology, without explanation. Just you, being you, living your days, finding your small joys, carrying your quiet sorrows, doing your best. That's all any of us can do, and it's more than enough. Thank you for being here.